So, there are a few things where I think a course that focuses on assessment can be more successful in terms of student learning, the course material, than one that focuses on content, however counterintuitive that may sound. The first part of this is a core of learning, and that's memory. We know that there are two major ways of thinking about how we encode things into memory. We call them procedural and declarative memory. Procedural memory is what it sounds like. They're things that we learn simply by doing them. These can be basic things of childhood like learning language or riding a bike, but adults do these things too. Learning to dance, learning to argue like a lawyer, learning a new language, even learning to teach. All of these things require you to do them, and in so doing, the brain actually handles them differently. You'll find people with forms of dementia or amnesia that still remember how to play the piano or ride a bike, though they don't remember the facts that make their life theirs. So it's not just a form of learning, but also a form of remembering and being. Declarative memory is more of what we think of when we think of remembering things. It's the form of memory that requires practice. Flashcards are a great example of a use of declarative memory. It's in this area that we've had the longest lasting misconceptions about learning taking place. The concepts of learning styles divides people up into a few types of learners, usually auditory, visual, or kinetic. As if some people can hear a lecture and learn better than they would by reading a book or just jumping in and trying to do whatever would display learning a subject. What we actually know now is that not only is every person unique in how they learn, but they are unique each time that they learn, and that the same process may not work each time a person tries to learn a new thing. So the best approach is a multimodal approach using several forms to demonstrate a concept. But the underlying concept in all of these is that you have to actively do something. So, doing. That brings us to the other core of learning that I think helps make courses that focus on assessment more successful, and that's motivation. Ask a 5-year-old who has an obsession with dinosaurs about them sometime. You'll be amazed by how much they know. They probably know more about dinosaurs than you do. The reason is interest. This isn't to say that you need to demean the importance of your subject by using stupid effects in your lectures, like my last one, or trying to use slang to sound cool, or really trying to figure out how everything is a metaphor for Snapchat. I don't mean that you have to relate to your students. What it means is your assessment and your use of assessment adapts to your students. So this slide right here is saying what we know about traditional assessment, that it's been used in one primary way, as a gatekeeper at the end of a course that asks a student what they learned during the term. It's called summative assessment. It's used to assess what has come before the test. No one will argue that these aren't necessary. We need to hold our students accountable for their learning and our teachers' ability to help them learn. However, summative assessment only really works with one form of motivation, avoidance of punishment. And where fear of failure is a great motivator, it has diminishing returns over a student's career. Plus, even at its best, this sort of motivator doesn't really work across an entire semester. This explains cramming for tests and all of the questions you'll get from students at the end of the semester asking about how they can improve their grades. They're more motivated at the end of the term, right before the summative assessment. To extend the motivation of our students throughout your semester, use what is called formative assessment as well. The goal here is, just as it says, to help form understanding going forward. In this area, we know that people construct their understanding as whole people, not just cognitively, but also affectively and socially. After all, that 5-year-old I was talking about earlier chose to focus their obsession on dinosaurs, not on something else. And making that choice was guided by something other than the strict rational thought. If it was purely rational, we'd all have the same obsessions, or no obsessions at all, actually. But we do obsess, and we do choose. And so, if we want to help people learn, we have to recognize the fullness of their being to help them form new understandings. This is why most formative assessment techniques often involve open-ended questions that allow students to bring in their experience and relate those experiences to the content at hand. This allows students to accommodate their experience to the new information and assimilate that new information into their understanding of the world. Sounds like getting to know a new friend, right? And really, that's what we want our students to think of our subject matter as, a new way to view the world. This may sound a bit vague, but I hope to flesh this out in the project's topic of this course. I do hope that you also started to see this in action with our first voice thread, though, that we wanted your experience to guide your learning. All right, so the last part of the equation after memory and motivation are considered is feedback. When you tried to first ride a bike, you had the feedback mechanism of gravity. Tilt too much and you fall. So you learn to correct your posture to keep the bike upright. That's feedback. The key to it is an unclear balance between rewards and punishments. Better rewards, though, are better than more terrifying punishments. So you need your students to be effectively rewarded through your feedback, while also making sure that the critical feedback of their work, the punishment part, is constructive. It's a tough balancing act, and considering the work involved, how in the world are you going to be expected to grade all of this with all of your other responsibilities? That's the hardest question to answer, but there are bright spots. We sing the praises of flipped classrooms for their ability to have students be active in the room, but it's also great for giving you a space to provide individuals feedback. We rely on students to formally and informally provide feedback to each other in group work, and we selectively praise individuals in public arenas so that the praise is more rewarding. And it lets all of the students know you're paying attention. You can change student assignments based on student input, like asking for quiz questions or something along that, so that students are empowered through their work. You can let assignments build on each other so a final project has been in the process of being graded throughout a semester. And you can also lower the number of items to grade by putting students in groups. There's more, and we'll need to consider it throughout this course. But I just want you to know it's not a burden that isn't overcomable. You can do it. All right. So that's about it for now. Obviously, this is one simplification among many about how we learn, but I hope it's one that we can use to ground our continued work together. Best of luck with the rest of the course. Hope it's going well. Thanks.